grass out there that... Ah! I ain't got no fingers!
In the words of our intelligible friend Boomhauer, it's the return of the dang old king, man. Finally, we have a full trailer showcasing what's to come in the all-new season of King of the Hill. And there's lots to unpack and discuss, from Hank's return to Arlen, Texas, to Bobby's young adult life and how some folks just aren't really a fan of this animation style. I also found out as well you can now play as Hank Hill in Fortnite of all things. Not that he'd know what that is, of course.
Maybe our teammate Propaniac can revive us.
All 10 episode titles have been published online, and we finally get to hear these characters talk again for the first time in 15 years. Can you believe it's been that long since the series last graced our screens? Plus, there's some new posters showcasing the characters and how they've been updated and aged since we last saw them. Giving my first impressions, looking at everything we have seen thus far of Season 14, I'm really excited for these new episodes. I don't think Mike Judge would have committed to the project if he didn't have faith in it, and I do trust him to deliver quality, especially with how good the new Beavis and Butthead episodes are, and the prospect of aging these characters up is fantastic. Something The Simpsons really should have done over 20 years ago. It breathes new life and stories into existing characters without becoming estranged, as though you're watching a completely new show. I know some viewers find the new animation off-putting, and it does look a little clunky at times, I'm gonna be honest. I feel this was most apparent in a recent teaser that dropped where the characters are walking around a museum, and it just looked as though it was unfinished, it just didn't flow properly. The footage in this trailer, however, looks fine, and bear in mind, for comparison's sake, a good majority of the original run was done with traditional hand-drawn animation. Hopefully this change will not have a massive impact on how people see the new episodes. I think we will get used to it with a lot of modern animation looking like this anyway. We've had one or two teasers of late showcasing what to expect from the new episodes, and this trailer continues that vibe. Story-wise, we know that Hank and Peggy Hill have been away for several years. Hank has been working a propane job in Saudi Arabia, and the trailer sees the couple return to Ireland, giving them a chance to reconnect with family and friends. And I know some folks weren't thrilled about this fish-out-of-water approach for Hank, but I do have confidence in the writing for this to be done properly, without just being a shopping list of brain-dead references to the contemporary world. A leaked teaser from the ATX TV Festival back in May did feature a scene that I'm going to assume is part of the first episode, which is appropriately titled Return of the King, and it features Hank and Peggy's flight home with an unfortunate but hilarious mention of Hank's narrow urethra. He's taking a while in the airplane bathroom, and Peggy decides to share too much information.
I have a narrow urethra.
Poor Hank, or Little Hank? Maybe this will be the first scene of the new run, who knows until obviously we see the episode, but most likely it will link to the first few shots of this trailer. Hank seemingly takes his first steps back into the alley, and he's greeted by an overly enthusiastic Boomhauer who hasn't aged well at all. Maybe too much time on the sunbed? His dialogue saying "Return of the dang old king man" doesn't appear to match the scene either, so that must be from elsewhere in the episode. And speaking of Boomhauer, it looks as though he may have a family of his own now. In the opening credits, he's seen with a woman and what I will assume to be her son, and you can see this new character standing around in the background looking at his phone. He also looks to be wearing a COVID mask, which he was also wearing in the opening titles, so it can't be too careful, I suppose. On the topic of isolation, that's a loose segue, Bill isn't doing too great. He's still living alone, having grown a long flowing beard, and it sounds like he really did miss both Hank and Peggy, maybe insinuating just how much he relied on the Hills to keep himself going. And this isn't the kind of character development, or the lack of, that I expected. He's honestly not one of my favourite characters, but I genuinely do hope we get to see him turn his life around. Out of all the prominent characters in the show, Bill does deserve some form of happiness without, I guess, constantly being given the Zoidberg treatment.
You don't want to end up old and lonely like Zoidberg!
It's great to see that despite the time jump, Hank is still stuck in his old-fashioned ways, not necessarily avoiding things like, for example, advances in technology, but he will find a way to kick someone's ass over Zoom if needs be. And I am interested to learn the context of this scene. It looks as though Peggy is hosting some form of business meeting or pitch, only for Hank to walk into the kitchen and interrupt. And on the subject of his old-fashioned ways, his confused reaction to the old gender bathroom got a good laugh out of me, more so when he just casually asks Peggy, "Are we all gender?" I'm certain that his approach to alternative social norms will drive a lot of the comedy in this postmodern idea of King of the Hill. His attitudes and mannerisms are already built for criticizing things that he just does not understand. Likewise, how he's set in his ways with his own understanding of how things work. When his Uber driver, for example, asks for a 5-star review, which I'm certain would be a huge help, Hank only gives him 4 stars, and there's always something more to work towards by his logic. It's just his typical attitude. Same with Peggy. I love her ego-driven opinion of herself, which is often her undoing in a lot of social situations. Seeing Bobby as an adult is still surreal to me. It's going to take a lot of getting used to, but he's working as a chef in a fusion-style restaurant, which no doubt will have its quirks. Already we get to see the rat in the kitchen cliché, which is somewhat amusing for what it is. I'm glad that Pamela Adlon is still voicing the character and that Bobby sounds more or less the same, maybe slightly deeper. Hopefully we'll get to see the father-son bond progress further between him and Hank, where he's drinking beer with his dad, and this looks to be a prominent part of the second episode titled The Beer Story, and he tries to push more extravagant drinking tastes onto Hank, and he's having none of it. The man doesn't want his beer to taste like fruit, which is understandable. My favourite part of the trailer was the reveal that Bobby is dating a vegan girl, or as Peggy says, a vegan. Oh, that entire dialogue exchange really got me, and it's clearly going to be a point of contention in the Hill House. And beyond this, there's a whole load of random shots inserted into the trailer. I love how Bobby, Connie, and Joseph are still friends in their adult years. Hank is seen coaching a football team, which Dale appears to have some kind of problem with. Plus, speaking of, we finally get to hear a line from Dale. As many know, his voice actor Johnny Hardwick sadly passed away mid-production, and Toby Hurst has now taken on the role going forward. I'm honestly not sure which actor we're hearing in this scene, but let me know in the comments who do you think this is. Either way, it sounds like Dale, but slightly aged. Joseph and John Redcorn look to be spending more time together. Maybe Joseph finally realizes that John is actually his father. And speaking of, rest in peace to John Redcorn's voiceover, Jonathan Joss. What a sad situation for a loving man who was just cruelly taken from this world far too soon. A situation that didn't need to be a thing and simply should not have happened. It's been revealed that Jonathan Joss did record several new episodes, and it's a tragedy that he won't be able to see the fan reaction to the show's return and the return of John Redcorn. The trailer concludes with Hank still getting up at the crack of dawn despite being retired. He's still the same old Hank Hill, and I love how this trailer makes a thing out of how he's trying to fill his time up responsibly. It'll be interesting to see what he does get up to, and same with basically all the characters, just to see what's going on with everybody after all these years. Like I said before, I think the time jump is going to be a huge advantage to breathing new life into King of the Hill. All 10 episodes are set to drop on Hulu on August 4th, plus the show has already been renewed for another 10 episodes, which no doubt are already in production. If so, we should expect to see them drop next year in 2026. Overall, it looks as though things are on track for this new batch of episodes, embracing real changes while still retaining the spirit of what made the originals so great. The new episode titles give us more to speculate on. We've already spoken about the first 2. Episode 3 onwards, we have chore money, chore problems. Maybe this relates to Peggy's business brief in the kitchen. Any given Hill Day, a new ref in town. This likely sees Hank becoming the football referee. Peggy's fade out, Bobby gets grilled, which sounds as though it relates to his job. Hopefully he won't get fired. No Hank left behind could have something to do with GH or Good Hank, Hank Hill's much younger brother. A sounder investment could also relate to that kitchen scene with Peggy. And finally, conscious uncoupling. Could Khan's marriage finally be at an end? Hopefully not, for his benefit. Plus, that'll be a somber finale for the new batch of episodes. Anyway, that's going to do it for this trailer breakdown and discussion video on the new trailer for King of the Hill Season 14. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to leave me a like down below. Let me know in the comments what you think of the upcoming season. As always, I love hearing your thoughts and opinions. And for more content, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, DVD Review Studios.
Are you threatening me?